you're about to see a lot of correlating evidence to illustrate the fact that the deadline for this transformation agenda was actually set long before Agenda 2030 was ever created, back in September of 2015. And the year 2030 is a year that has long been associated with the pursuit of social transformation and of a new age. But here's the disclaimer. I just want to be clear that I do not believe that 2030 will be the precise year of the apocalypse. You know, I have no reason to believe that it will bring a major spiritual event, and I'm definitely not predicting the arrival of the Antichrist or the date of Christ's return or anything like that. You know, because of course the Bible is very clear that no man knows that day or hour. So this video is by no means intended to prophesy or imply anything regarding a spiritual or biblical connection to that specific year. But although I would never prophesy or set a date for those kinds of things, I'm more than comfortable to point out signs of the end times. I mean, after all, Jesus himself taught his disciples about what will be going on in the world as we approach that final hour. You know, and it includes things like wars and rumors of wars and famines and plagues and pestilences and widespread natural disasters, you know, amongst many other things. And it goes on to say that when the Antichrist comes onto the scene, he will unite the world, and even rival nations will be unified in subjection to his kingdom. And I just find it rather interesting that we find ourselves in a time where nations across the world are being gathered under the umbrella of an organization that is literally called the United Nations, you know, whose influence has suddenly compelled a majority of competing nations to fall into alignment with its directives, radical directives that are intended to transform the world as we know it, you know, most notably these Sustainable Development Goals. And maybe I'm just looking too deeply into things, but I think it's never too early to repeat what John the Baptist said all those years ago. Repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. You know, I mean, if that was true then how much closer must we be today?
Fort de la Future involves youth-partnered collaboration to address issues of nutrition and sexual and reproductive health and human rights. Over 100 young people from Senegal came together to develop a declaration and commit to focusing on the implementation of the SDGs by 2030. In Quito, Ecuador, our local partners Diálogo Diverso provides resources and safety for LGBTQIA members, as well as migrants and refugees. Last year, they painted the COVID-19 mural, which depicts an array of unique Ecuadorian faces. The project aims to make public spaces safer and more inclusive while advocating for the use of masks. In each of these cities, youth learned how to localize the Sustainable Development Goals and implement the new urban agenda. Through these trainings and conversations with local government, we see how youth are paving the way to a future that is more sustainable, safe, resilient, and prosperous for everyone. Youth 2030 Cities proves that when youth are given a voice, change can be made. Youth 2030 Cities, a UN Habitat and Foundation Botner initiative.
In recent years, the UN has turned more and more to young people for hope, vitality, and a measure of guilt when it comes to getting governments and corporations to act.
We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you!
We are the young people of the world, demanding you, the leaders of the world, to fulfill your obligations.
In New York and cities across the world, climate protesters took to the streets ahead of this week's gathering, demanding world leaders help protect future generations and end the use of fossil fuels. The UN says now is the time for leaders to prove they are listening and keep the pledges they made.
Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, we're very proud of the enthusiasm of the young people who've joined us at COP28, and let's give her another round of applause.
Now, because of this knowledge about Agenda 21, the forces that mean to rule us through this process have started to change the names. I have in my hand, and I'll tell you how you can get a copy for yourself, Transforming Our World, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And basically it's saying that, well, we need to hurry this process along. We've got to get things done by 2016, 2020, and most assuredly by 2030. In other words, it's not an Agenda 21, the 21st century anymore. It's actually over the next couple of decades. And so in here, you start to read what they have to say about what they're trying to do. And it's full of glittering generalities about eliminating poverty and sustaining the world and on and on and on. And if you extend the lines on these things, it means total government control. They talk about freedom, they talk about independence, they talk about equality and all the rest of it, as long as they are in control. So the Bill of Rights of Congress says that Congress shall pass no law, period. The United Nations says, yes, you have these rights, but we can regulate them. The scale and ambition of the new agenda requires a revitalized global partnership. This is a very important document. When you start to really analyze what they've got in this thing, it's a total dictatorship over all of us, all of our lives, our governments, everything. If they can control the economy, what does that do to your business? If they can control the farmland and everything else in the name of feeding the world, to eliminate poverty, and about every fourth or fifth paragraph in this thing says we want to eliminate poverty. Well, it's an impossible task. For those of you who are Christians, you know that Jesus Christ told us the poor we will always have with us. And it's true, we will always have poor. It's a relative thing, first of all.
Earth News in the year 2030, brought to you by Prego Spaghetti Sauce.
Today, the last tree in the once lush Amazon rainforest was cut down. Our future? Not if we fight deforestation. I'll be back to tell you how.
The teacher's role is changing too. In transitioning from deliverers of knowledge, they are now facilitators who help students grow their learning skills. They have traditionally stood at the front of a class delivering knowledge. Now they can be found helping students teach each other, or even teaching students on another continent. Today, one teacher can reach millions via video on the internet. In this new educational environment, we have a chance to reassess what makes great teachers and how they might reach and inspire as many students as possible. The final pillar is the test, educational assessment. What is the best way to gauge the progress of learners? Exams on the curriculum, or more general tests of learning ability? Or is there another way entirely? We are in the midst of a huge experiment, and we don't yet know what works. Are tablets that much more engaging than chalkboards? Does being alone with an internet connection create a better learning experience than struggling through alongside your peers? Are massive online courses just creating bigger batches? It is vital that we answer these questions quickly and push global achievement as high as this age of new opportunities will allow.
We can be.
We must be the first generation
to end extreme poverty.
The generation
most determined
to fight injustice and inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done. The global goals.
A 15-year plan
For everyone, everywhere.
with no one left behind.
We will live in a world
Where nobody
anywhere
Lives in extreme poverty.
Where no one
goes hungry.
where no one
Wakes in the morning asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world where no child has to die.
Diseases we know how to cure. And where proper health care
Is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world
where everyone
goes to school. And education gives us the knowledge
And skills.
for a fulfilling life.
We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities to thrive
And be powerful
and safe.
we cannot succeed if half the world is handicaped.
We will live in a world where all people can get clean water
And proper toilets at home,
at school and at work.
We will live in a world where there's sustainable energy for everyone.
heat, light, and power for the whole planet.
without destroying the planet.
We will live in a world where economies prosper. And new wealth
leads to decent jobs
For everyone.
and we will live in a world where our industries
our infrastructure, and our
best innovations
are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
Who will live in the world
where prejudices and extremes of inequality
are defeated
inside our countries
and between different countries,
where people live in cities and communities
that are safe, progressive,
and support everyone who lives there,
where we replace
what we consume,
planet where we put back what we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back from climate
change, where we restore and protect the life in our oceans and seas.
We'll restore and protect
life on land,
the forests, animals,
the earth itself.
With peace between and inside countries,
where all governments are open
and answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
And the justice rules.
With everyone equal before the law.
Where all countries and we their people
work together
in partnerships of all kinds
to make these goals a reality
for everyone, everywhere.
These are the United Nations global goals
for sustainable development.
Let's get to work.
Let's make it happen.
We are in the middle of a major revolution, a revolution in values. The fact that there are 18, 19 million people in this country alone who are now either full vegetarians or quasi-vegetarians. There have been massive changes or transformations in our eating habits. People value their bodies more than ever. We want to live far into the future. We also are protective of animals. We want to be protective of the environment. For me, the revolutionaries, the futurists of our times are not just our astronauts, although they are, to be sure, wonderfully futurist. They're great, but they're also the people here who are spearheading this movement toward non-violent eating. The people who are involved in the animal protection movement, the vegetarian movement, the vegan movement, and so forth. They are just as central.
The question is, are you a transhuman? That's the name of the book that's published by Warner Books, and its author is with us today to explain that and talk about the future of financial markets. His name, or is it your number, is FM 2030.
That's my transhuman code number, Bill.
I see.
FM 2030.
The historical forces, Phil, which spawned and sustained marriage associations and marriage systems, family systems through the ages, I think are just phasing out. All the things that family and marriage performed in the past now can be fulfilled outside of marriage. For instance, lovemaking, companionship, procreation.
But not parenthood.
Well, shared parenthood. I think we're moving away from exclusive parenthood towards shared parenthood. One of the lovely things about our times, as I see it, Phil, is that there are a whole lot of options open to the individual, of which singling is one.
Yes.
Coupling is yet another, exclusive or non-exclusive. Triads, 3 people linking up, for instance.
Wedding ceremonies. These are rituals that allow 2 people to announce to the world that they now belong to each other. Weddings would be more honest if the bride and bridegroom peed on each other to establish their territory. Keep out, everybody, this is now my property. The idea is that we're moving away from ritual and from exclusivity and territoriality. We're growing more and more fluid, more and more global, more and more mobile.
And in the process, less and less human? FM 2030 says yes.
The fact that we're no longer of this planet only, and the fact that we're no longer confined to these bodies, leads me to foresee a time, very short, very, very shortly, I'd say in the coming 2-3 decades, when in fact by no stretch of imagination, by no stretch of definition can anyone be called human.
I'm a person who's not involved in the past. I like to think of myself as someone who lives the future. And I wanted a name that evokes the future, a name that evokes my dreams and hopes and visions. And I thought 2030 was a neat name, yeah. Well, at that time, let's say 40 years from now, a whole lot of things that are beginning to happen now, like, for example, life extension, or space colonization, or solar satellites, the ability to, for example, change season and have sunlight anytime, anywhere. All of these things will by then have crystallized. So it's a very exciting time. And then, of course, prostheses, implantology, electronic parts, and so forth.
You know, that's what you'll hear from the people who follow that industry. Biotechnology is the wave of the future there.
Exactly. Yes.
The globalization of the markets. I mean, we're becoming this smaller and smaller global community now, and you're seeing it in all phases of our lifestyle, and I think especially in the investment community, because information is so valuable right now. That has to be a key to the future as well, that information side.
Absolutely.
What do you mean by the title, transhuman?
It means the stage beyond the human. This very day, there are scientists who, through, let's say, biological engineering and genetics and robotics and what we call transgenesis and so forth, creating the beginnings of what will eventually be life forms more advanced, more refined, more evolved than us humans, including ourselves, by the way, Larry.
We are in the age, as you well know, of globalized, economy, global job mobility, global telecommunication, global transportation, global infrastructures. There are over 2,000 international and global organizations, including, of course, the United Nations, not to mention a lot of continental, subcontinental, hemispheric, and global agencies and so forth.
What do you see in the future? Do you see one market? I mean, they're talking about the 24-hour markets and so forth. Does it make sense, carrying it to the nth degree, to have a single trading market around the world?
Well, when you say the future, Bill, remember, the future is a very long time. And I would say I'm supremely confident we have. The thing is, the immediate future, yes, we're moving toward the global market. In fact, we are in the age of the global market. We are already trans-biological, trans-solar beings, and therefore we are transhuman. And even transhuman is not our final destination. It's just a transitional phase from the human to something infinitely more advanced, infinitely more refined, infinitely more sophisticated, and that is the post-humans of the middle of the 21st century.
Is FM 2030 putting us on? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe our grandchildren will find out for sure. David George, CNN, Future Watch.
For all of us here at Future Watch, I'm Donna Kelly. Thanks for watching. Join us again next week for another journey into the 21st century. And now stay with CNN for the latest news.
This is a glorious moment in human evolution. These are the years, the decades, when so far as we know, for the first time in evolution, living beings have broken away from this planet to journey to other worlds. These are the years, the decades, when so far as we know, for the first time, living organisms are mutating their biologies to overcome aging and death. Millions of years from now, wherever we are in the universe, whoever we are, however we look, we will remember these years. Optimism, abundance, universalism, immortality.
Stop! Holy Gaia, that's enough! Stop! Stop, holy Gaia!
Everybody's a tree. I knew I'd do it.
I can't let you do that, Captain!
Anybody else want to go green?
Huh?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
We don't want them to die! That there are some people here who do care! So I want you to know that, trees!
There's a man going around taking names, and he decides who to free and who to blame. Everybody won't be treated all the same. There'll be a golden ladder reaching down when the man comes around. The hairs on your arm will stand up at the terror in each sip and in each sup. Will you partake of that last offered cup, or disappear into the potter's ground when the man comes around? Hear the trumpets, hear the pipers, 100 million angels singing. Multitudes are marching to the big kettle drum. Voices calling, voices crying. Some are born and some are dying. It's Alpha and Omega's kingdom come. And the whirlwind is in the thorn tree. The virgins are all trimming their wicks. The whirlwind is in the thorn tree. It's hard for thee to kick against the pricks. Till Armageddon, no shalom, no shalom. Then the father hen will call his chickens home. The wise men will bow down before the throne, and at his feet they'll cast their golden crowns when the man comes around. Whoever is unjust, let him be unjust still. Whoever is righteous, let him be righteous still. Whoever is filthy, let him be filthy still. Listen to the words long written down when the man comes around. Hear the trumpets, hear the pipers, 100 million angels singing. Multitudes are marching to the big kettle drum. Voices calling, voices crying. Some are born and some are dying. It's Alpha and Omega's kingdom come. And the whirlwind is in the thorn tree. The virgins are all trimming their wicks. The whirlwind is in the thorn tree. It's hard for thee to kick against the pricks. In measured 100-weight and penny pound, when the man comes around. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him.